Wah! I'm sorry about that. I couldn't help myself. I just had the idea and I said, I'm going to do it. And I am back like I never left. Welcome back to the channel. got I got the ball again today. So the last time we spoke, I was talking about what I was doing right after I transitioned to Arizona. I hinted at the fact that I met some people and some things started going down, some things started moving for me. So here's how it went down. And this is so cool. This is the cool thing about the journey because you never know how or who you're going to meet, what circumstances will take place that are going to be, well, so important, paramount importance. This, you can't skip this step type of importance. So one of the last times that I used the online dating thing before I was just like, okay, I'm done with this, because this was one of the last times that it was something really good, important came out of it. And and then like a month later, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. This is a waste of time for me. So I met this woman, and it was just cool because I wasn't really like super interested or anything. Just like, so I just had it was like send her a message, that type of thing. Send her a message because there are things in her profile that I thought were interesting. Like anytime there's somebody talking about like spiritual stuff, that whole thing, obviously, that's something that I dig into, really well. So I was just like, okay, that always piques my interest. But then she also mentioned something about the Matrix movies, and I was just like, hey, there's a Matrix movie coming out in like 2 weeks. She was unaware of, so just kind of a cool thing. So we started talking, and it was instantly about not dating and that whole thing, but it was about this kind of platform that her and her friend were creating, and it was basically this thing where a bunch of people come together who are conscious and who go about healing and basically getting your life on track and basically doing things from that more spiritual perspective, from a more spiritual perspective. It's that kind of thing, like a whole site, a whole organization, and that's the basis of it. And I said, oh, that sounds really cool, and she asked me to be a part of it, and I was just like, oh wow, because of kind of where I was heading, where I was coming, and all these kind of things. So it sounded good. Now, the only thing about it for me was that I was still very much figuring out where I was going. That I was still, in my mind, I'm still on the journey. So I don't really know exactly what I have to offer. Like, I know I have a lot of things to offer, but none of them are concretely built and put together in like a business form, and like I'm doing stuff for clients, and I've had all these ideas over the years, and things that I have felt have failed, but I think really some of these things are just going to come full circle. I just was getting the foundation laid for these things, but I'll come back to that, in the future. Maybe even in a year, a couple of years from now. But I know that I think it's circling back around. So I didn't really know. I didn't have my thing. I just all these people that had like clientele and businesses, and they're doing their spiritual practices, and they're helping people in various ways. And I was just the guy that had a lot of knowledge, like sunlight. I had a lot of sunlight, but I didn't have a magnifying glass to focus it, to make it, ooh, this is the thing that I'm focusing on. It was just raw energy, Nothing wrong with raw energy, just, learning how to tame it so it can be more effective. And that's kind of where I was. So I always felt out of place a little bit. I always felt kind of like an interloper. That's just kind of what it was. So we started this platform and making content and stuff and just putting things out there. And I started learning things about myself because before this I didn't really know. When you have an obligation to someone or something, so okay, I said I was going to do this thing, so I have to do this thing, and you sit down and you do it, and then, but because of that, you might learn things about yourself, and I did. I learned that when I film videos, I really come alive. I really enjoy making videos talking about stuff that I know about, and it just it does something for me. It's one of those things that I kind of get an excitement about. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I didn't think that I would, I was always just like, where do I go with it, right? What do I say? And as I turn on the camera, I'm just talking about my experience and things just flow. So it was cool, and I did that month after month, and there's a lot of excitement around it, and that was really cool. So we had the meetings and everything, and just meeting all these people, but it was all virtual because some people are out of state. Some people are in state, so we just all connected via the video conference, and we did our thing. So we had this event come up, and it was a meeting of all the people in the group, and it was going to be in Sedona, and I had never been to Sedona at this point. I've only been in Arizona for a few months. Well, by the time we actually went, it was like 6 months. So I was kind of waiting for that. So I was like, okay, cool. So we go to Sedona, and we meet everybody. So until this point, everyone was just everyone except the woman that I met. Everyone was basically just a person on the screen. Like, they weren't real to me. Like, yes, they're real people. Obviously, they're real people, but when you don't meet them in person, like, they're not real people. Not to me. It's just I don't know how to do that. So this was good for me because I was getting to meet the actual people. I'm seeing your faces on the screen all the time, but getting to meet you in person was a big thing for me. And it's just like, okay, but there's still this, yes, I finally get to meet you, but now it's going to be, I'm going to meet you, I'm going to see about you. That doesn't mean we're like best friends instantly. It's still like, it's just not how it works. So we get there, and it's just like, we're just talking. We're just coming together. We're just kind of having a good time and feeling each other's energy and doing little exercises, little bonding things. And it was cool. And Sedona is beautiful. This was my first time being up there, and the landscape was stunning. I've been to the Grand Canyon before. This was a few years ago, and I went to the Grand Canyon, and I thought that was stunning. But Sedona has a very unique feel to it because the mountains and the landscape is up and above, and the road is down below, and you're driving through, you're looking up at it, and there's houses in the background, and it's just gorgeous. So getting to see that was, I enjoyed that very much. So it kind of added to the experience, and I learned that everyone always talks about the red rocks up there, and how when you go up there, you can feel the energy just in the earth and on the ground. And I remember when we were there, everyone was just like, "Oh my gosh, you feel that?" You feel that? And I'm like, ooh. I took my shoes off. I'm just like, I don't feel anything. Then I went over somewhere, and I was just like, I don't feel nothing. And I kind of felt disappointed because, again, I'm still, right? I've had experiences, right? If you watch my other videos, you know the experiences that I've had, but I'm still learning how to tune into that on purpose, right? I'm still learning how to tune into that on purpose. So I go, we do our thing. We're just hanging out for a couple hours, and then at the time we're about to leave the trail, I do it again. And this time, I take my hand, sit it on the ground, I close my eyes, and this is when I saw the energy. I didn't feel the energy through my hands, but I saw it. So when I close my eyes, I see energy, and I see it all the time, and it's always, depending on what, the source is, it's different, but, and I was just like, okay, because I had to remember that that's the way that I perceive energy. It's kind of strange because I would assume they would be through touch because touch is such an important thing to me. But it wasn't through the touch, it was through like how I normally perceive energy. So I was just like, oh, okay. And when I saw it, it was so fascinating because they were like little waves going up like this, and they were moving like that. I was like, ah, it's pulsing, you know. So I was like, okay, now I get it. I just perceived it different, and this kind of the one thing that I really want you to understand is that you may not, whatever it is. We're not just talking about like seeing energy or feeling energy or whatever, but whatever you're experiencing in life, your perception of it may come through a different sensory system than someone else. And it's really one of those things that it harkens back to the importance of learning who you are and how do you do things. And this is one of those things that takes consistent effort, it takes stillness, it takes sitting down and say, okay, what do I like, just paying attention to who you be, right? And who you want to be. And because what you're going through may be the same as someone else, but the way you're experiencing it's going to be totally different. So while advice and that sort of thing is good and helpful, ultimately we know the answer. It's just, are we willing to listen? Are we willing to trust ourselves to know that we know the answer? To know that what we're doing is not right, or to know we're running on a hamster wheel, And it's like a lot of times we know that that's the case, but we don't know what to do to get out of it. So we just stay in there because it's familiar. And then, we meet people who can catalyze us to help us get off the hamster wheel. And that's the beautiful thing about this retreat that I was on, because I met people in person who did different things that I did and who were very encouraging and very helpful, and that was really cool. But it allowed me to kind of see the different perspectives and get information and to get knowledge and to get to try things basically from people in their different backgrounds. Basically what happened during that time was I was very standoffish. Not in the way that I really meant to be like, oh my gosh, you people are new and just, but I just, I don't particularly warm up to people super, super, super quick like that. I used to make friends too quickly when I was a boy. And then I would regret it because the people would annoy me. They'd be like, oh yeah, we're best friends now. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so annoying. So I after that point, I like went to the other side of the spectrum where I was like, everybody was like, as a hard stop. Like, I gotta observe you really hard before I can trust that you're not gonna be annoying to me. So it was like an antiquated defense mechanism. It was an antiquated how to make friends. My bridge was super old and rickety, and just like, so I was just like, kept everybody at like at arm's length. So later that night, we're having time. We're sitting around the fire pit, super cool. And they've got like at this particular place, you can go in the office and they've got pre-made s'mores. So like some graham crackers, some chocolate, and some marshmallows, and you could sit by the fire and make s'mores. And I never had a s'more before, which surprised everybody. But and I was like, oh, surprising! It's really good. So we sitting around the fire and we're talking about like past life stuff. They're talking about the big topic of conversation that night was it was a twin flame stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's had a twin flame experience except me. Now I've had women tell me before that, oh, I think we're twin flames and stuff. And I'm just like, man, can two people be your twin flame? I don't know. I've had two people think that about me, so I'm just like, I don't know. But anyway, so it's a grand time, right? There's a swimming pool. They're just kind of out in the swimming pool, and it's Arizona, so although it's nighttime, it's still, well, this particular night, it was a little bit cool. But I'm sure the pool was probably still warm from earlier. But anyway, so we get to a point where we're talking about, like, oh, they brought out some herbs, and one of them was like just like a flower or something. It's like you just smoking a little pipe, and it It doesn't do anything. It's just kind of relaxing to do, you know. So okay, cool, you know, let's try this. Oh, it'll help you with your dreams, or it'll, you know, help you sleep. So I'm just like, oh, it'll help me sleep. Yeah, I'm down. So then they brought out this Hape. Now Hape was something that I had never experienced before. I didn't know what that was. But the Hape is this, it's a tobacco, it's an herb. And during the ceremony, they take it, they just blow it in your nose, right? Both your nostrils. And you let it sit there. You let the herb sit there in your nasal cavity. You don't breathe in through your nose. You breathe in through your mouth the whole time. In and out through your mouth the whole time. And the Hape herbs it's decalcifying your pineal gland, and it's kind of opening you up in that way. Plus, it's really grounding. You feel really in your body. And I was sitting in that chair just, I was so relaxed, and so in my body. And I was like, okay, this is cool. You know, it was a cool experience. So what had happened was that when I did that, I started tearing up. I started crying. And I wasn't crying like boo-hoo, but I was just crying tears, right? And I know I kind of talk about crying a lot, but because of how important it is and how for such a long time I couldn't do it. And I already told you, I'm not ever holding anything back ever again because of what I went through. But this wasn't something that was even voluntary. Like I couldn't stop it. But the other thing that was strange about it was that I was smiling uncontrollably. And I noticed that I was smiling uncontrollably and I couldn't stop. That was the funny part, because I tried to stop and I couldn't. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going through it. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is so funny. So, you know, my heart was kind of pounding at first because I was excited. I was like, okay, calm down. I had to calm my heart down, you know, and I did it, but it was good. So then she did, you know, both my nostrils, and I let it sit there, and I was all snotty and stuff. So we had going through boxes of tissues, and then blowing my nose afterwards, and just sitting there, it felt so good because it was these lovely people, and it was safe, and it was by a fire pit, and we were, we had just, everybody, the people that weren't in our group were respectful and didn't come and start talking. There was a couple that had gotten married a year prior, so they're newlyweds, and they did the ceremony with us, and that was their first time. They never experienced anything like that, and it was just like, it was so cool. But what I noticed from that experience was that everybody took their turn, right? Everybody took their turn, and then at the end, it was all good. The first woman that went, Gabby, she was like, her response to it was pretty intense. So everybody else was kind of just like, that's what's supposed to happen? So everybody was kind of like skittish a little bit. And the one dude, he like got up and ran for a second. So it looked like he didn't want to do it, but he came back. That wasn't it. It was just funny, the timing of it. And so it was after the experience ever was done, and then we could finally talk about it, which was really cool. And I'm just talking about how grounded I felt and how good I felt, and kind of things that were going through my minds. And I had the realization that part of the reason why I was crying was just because of all the energy and stuff that I held in. But I had built up these barriers. I built up these barriers, and I had them up for so long that it was repelling the people that I was wanting to, get closer to, this group of people. Like I wanted to get closer, but I just felt like I couldn't, and I didn't. At this point, I'd been doing it for so long that I didn't know why. So, the barriers, the smile that was just on my face and the tears that I was crying that were just letting things go allowed me to open up to these people for the rest of the weekend, which was so good because they probably thought that I was, angry or upset or just didn't like them or whatever. And that wasn't the case. I just had this defense, this shell that was so hard, and I was very selective about who I let in, and that kind of really expedited that process of me letting that go. So at the end of the night, I went in, I was going to go to sleep. And then Gabby came in and we were just talking. We chatted for like 2 hours, which was really cool. So I like really got to sit down and get to know her for, just her and I, just for a couple of hours with nobody else, and not like trying to talk to multiple people. And it was really cool because she had mentioned something about a friend who was in this area who was single into spiritual stuff, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I thought that was neat because I'm single in this area, I don't know anybody, and that'd be great. So basically what happened was the next day we are having lunch and everything, or dinner, and just all the things that we were talking about, and she was showing me her her picture and stuff. And I was, oh yeah, she's beautiful, and everything was good, but at this particular point I had gained a whole bunch of weight again. Now when I first moved to Arizona, I wasn't still where I was because I was kind of still reeling, but I was in a better place. But then after I got here, for whatever reason, I just put on like 50 pounds. And I didn't know why. I've got some pictures actually from the retreat. I might put them. At least maybe I'll crop the other people out. But I put on so much weight, and I was just like, man, what happened? So when she showed me the pictures, and she's like in the gym and stuff, and I got insecure. And I got insecure because of how I see myself, what I'm seeing in the mirror, and how I used to be in this whole thing. But at this point, I had been doing so much work on myself, just with the the voice recorder exercise, and making it a point to love myself and love on myself, so I'm not downing myself just because I've gained weight and all these other things. And it's one of those things that kind of tests you, because if that's something that's important to you, or if it's a source of is contention the right word, or possible source of contention, or just something that can poke at you like, hey, when this is out of balance, this is a weakness for you. That's one of those things for me. It's one of those weaknesses for me. Like when I'm not feeling healthy, or I'm not feeling my best, or not looking my best, given all the work that I put in. So it was like there's an opportunity with this woman, but I was looking at myself and I wasn't feeling the best about it. And the cool thing about doing all the work that I had been doing up to this point was that I noticed that I started getting insecure about the potential of talking to somebody who I felt was in that moment, like, let's say, out of my league, because I didn't feel worthy. But that was really a program, an old program that I never worked on. Well, until this point, and I started working on it. So at this point, when I felt that insecurity start to rise up in me, I immediately started to positive self-talk myself, because it doesn't matter if I'm not like 190 pounds with a chiseled six-pack and whatever, like I used to be, and this and that. It's like I still have a lot to offer. I'm still intelligent. I'm still loving and caring. I'm still all these wonderful things. It's just I don't look a certain way, and that's like that's something that's an issue for me, not necessarily for anybody else. And it's just because I'm not comfortable where I'm at right now doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. And it's this whole lesson about self-worth. And it was cool because at that moment, although it was a test and it stung a little bit, tests aren't easy, right? But because of all the work that I had been doing, for the last, was this in May or so? Let's just say for the last 5 or so months, when that came up, like I had passed, because I had been consistently focusing on elevating myself and lifting myself up and loving on myself. And so it was a really beautiful thing that, it's cool when that kind of stuff happens. And it's just like, it sucks for a second, but if you're diligent, if you've been diligent, when it does happen and you're ready for it and you pass it, it feels good. So in that moment I passed, and I was happy about that. I was really happy about that. So after that, the weekend continued. We did everything we did. We're eating food and stuff and just hanging out. and we were ready to go. And by the time that I was ready to go, I was actually struggling with leaving. You know, I was actually like, dang, I don't even want to go right now. I kind of want to hang out a little bit longer. But, you know, I had a, you know, a long drive back. They were partaking in a little bit of, you know, cannabis. And I was like, oh, I want to, but I got to drive, so I'm not going to. You know, it would have been nice, but we only had the living arrangements for, you know, those couple of days. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to. But it was cool. And when I look back, it was one of those moments that was pivotal for me because of what I learned. And of course, there's always going to be more, because this story's got more. It's got more things to it. So I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to touch back on some other things later. But you know, because I kind of fast forwarded a lot, but I had made another video explaining that story more in detail, more in depth, and I think I might post it just so you can kind of get because I like the way I explained it better on the other one. So I might post that, and it's obviously the format will be different because it's not like this, but it's good. So we'll see. So that's it for now. There's more to come. As always, I'm Johnny Jupiter, and remember, there is no outro.